It goes without saying that The Exorcist, directed by William Friedkin in 1973, is one of the most renowned and possibly terrifying movies ever made. William Peter Blatty's novel of the same name, which served as the basis for the film, was also allegedly influenced by a number of actual events. In particular, The Exorcist was based on the true account of a 13-year-old boy named Roland, who was allegedly possessed and later subjected to an exorcism in real life. Roland's name is occasionally mistaken for Ronald. I will take you through the real short story which will terrify you. So that being said, as always, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. The genuine narrative that served as the basis for The Exorcist starts in Washington, D.C. in the late 1940s. Roland was devastated by the loss of his Aunt Harriet. She had supposedly been a deeply spiritual person who had taught him things like how to use a Ouija board to speak with the dead. After she passed away, in January 1949, Roland experienced terrible noises coming from the walls of his chamber. Along with the house's interior leaks, odd occurrences continued as Roland's mattress began to move by itself. The bizarre happenings made it difficult for Roland's family to locate assistance. They sought advice from a range of medical experts, including their own Lutheran clergyman. The Jesuits were eventually contacted for assistance by their pastor. Father E. Albert Hughes asked his superiors in the Catholic Church for approval in February 1949 to execute an exorcism on Roland. Roland was restrained on his mattress during the exorcism and at one point tore out a spring to use as a weapon. After that, he slashed Hughes across the shoulders, causing the priest to abruptly end the exorcism. Evidently, after the failure of the first effort, odd tattoos started to develop on Roland's body. One of the red marks formed the letter Louis, which Roland's family interpreted as a sign to look for their ancestors in St. Louis. It turned out that one of their relatives was a student at St. Louis University, so they were able to introduce Father Walter H. Halloran and Rev. William Bowdern to Roland's immediate family. Finally, they consented to perform Roland's exorcism. Father Walter H. Halloran and Rev. William Bowdern gathered a number of helpers to help with the exorcism. They all arrived at Roland's home on Roanoke Drive in March 1949. They all saw the same things, such the scrapes and moving mattress, that were described above. They also began to note that Roland's demonic conduct tended to occur at night, when he would occasionally scream or shriek in a guttural manner. Any of the priest's sacred items would likewise cause him to have a bad reaction. Roland's scratches kept taking on new forms as the minutes passed. At one point, a big X appeared over his chest, which appeared to suggest that he might be under the control of as many as 10 demons. The exorcisms nevertheless went on every night. On March 20th, following yet another unsuccessful exorcism, his parents made the decision to transport him to Alexian Brothers Hospital in St. Louis. He had just urinated over his bed and had been combative with the priests. Roland experienced a series of seizures when he awakened in his hospital room on April 18th, the Monday following Easter. In response, the priests covered his body with crucifixes and other sacred objects. Then, in an effort to preserve Roland's corpse, they enlisted Saint Michael to take on Satan himself. When Roland's demonic trance appeared to have passed after 7 minutes, he only said, "He's gone." Following this, Roland appears to have led a normal life, and the paranormal events ceased. William Peter Blatty's The Exorcist was obviously very different from the original account. Consequently, William Friedkin's film version diverged even more from Roland and his horrified family's experiences. The Exorcist nevertheless succeeded in becoming one of the greatest horror movies ever made. Aside from the aforementioned incident, not much is known about Roland, whose real name is thought by some to be Ronald Hunkeler. If he is still living, his age would be in the 80s at this point. It was also reported that he had a son named Michael after the saint who had saved him, in addition to having been married at one point in his life. His exorcism was performed by 2 priests who are now deceased. While Halloran passed away in 2005 following a fight with cancer, Bowdern passed away in 1983. In addition, several of the story's locales are no longer in use in modern times. After Roland's exorcism at Alexian Brothers Hospital, his chamber was shut up, and the entire hospital would ultimately be destroyed in 1978. The family's Maryland home was also destroyed. But the genuine story that served as inspiration for The Exorcist will live on as long as it is one of the most enduring horror movies ever created. Hope you liked the video. For more such videos, please subscribe to the channel and don't forget to hit the bell icon.